Greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything's connected. How y'all doing? We're live on YouTube, Rockfin, and on X. Wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, please like the video. Please share the video, repost, or whatever it is. As if I don't have shadow banning problems enough, I went and cursed on X, so I don't know if they're going to let me if they're going to show that I have any viewers on X or not today. I'm not sure. Seems to be at the whimsy of the overlords over there, but anyways, greetings, welcome. We here. And let's get into it. A lot to cover. As always. From Dr. Genevieve Gunther. Well, I guess, well, I called Netanyahu a fuckface, so there's that. I mean, that's the thing, is that people curse all the time on their videos and on in their posts and whatever. For some reason, if I curse at all, it's really bad. It's like, dude, you curse all the time. Shut up. Everybody curses all the time. Just relax. I don't know, whatever. But he is, actually, that's true. It is the truth. Verifiably true. That's science. Okay. Global average temperature is expected to rise to almost 2°C above pre-industrial in the next 5 years, according to the WMO. Sorry. With falls in crop yields and more than a third of the population being exposed to extreme heat, people, we are in danger. So this is the first time I've actually it's not the first time, I'm sorry. I have to rewind that a little bit, but one of the few times I've seen people say something like, we're going to hit 2C in the next couple of years, which we are going to hit 2C in the next couple of years. That's the truth. But everybody's still like, well, we have to, there's still a chance we could stay within 1.5C. Bro, we're at 1.6 or 1.7 or something like that. That's in the rearview mirror. That's not happening. We're not going back. We're going to 2C, and we're going to 2C quickly. So, I don't know. Do whatever you want with that. Global average temperature is expected to rise to almost 2C above pre-industrial. So I already read this, and there's nothing else to read about it. Probability of above average near surface temperature. This is from 2025 to 2029. Predicted temperature patterns over the years show a high probability of temperatures above the 1991-2020 average almost everywhere, with enhanced warming over land. She said, here's the screenshot is from here. That's what I was looking for. Oh, I'm not going to be able to read this. Frickin' Financial Times. Anyways. Let's see. Let's see if we can do it this way. Let's see. Somewhere in here. Oh, you know what? Maybe that's why. Let's see. If I take this off, hopefully it doesn't destroy everything. Maybe, maybe not. Well, hold on. Sorry about the slowness. Here, I'm going to have to take this off, and hopefully this doesn't mess everything up. Well, this is interesting. Chicken enchiladas. I want some without the chicken. That sounds good. Man, that sounds really good. Maybe I'll make me up some of that Mexican food. I can't find this elsewhere. Although this is from 2024, and this says the thresholds of 1.5 and 2C above pre-industrial average global temperature have been temporarily exceeded several times in recent months. 2C was exceeded? That's news to me. I didn't hear that. Anybody else hear that? Did anybody else hear that 2C was exceeded? Yeah, all right. Can you let me know if there's still a stream going? Okay. I guess it still is because you guys are answering me. So that's good. Let's see. Showing any visuals on. Oh, all right, cool. Okay, all right there, X. Great. Well, I don't know. I was trying to see if I could find this. Trying to see if I could find an excerpt from this. Anyways, let's see. Let's try it again. Can we try it again? Let me see. Different search. Well, here's a. Okay, here we go. Woo! All right, finally. You guys are just watching me do that search in real time. Sorry. No, I don't want to sign up to your newsletter. Thank you. I just want to read this. I get too many newsletters. Oh man, the chubby vegan, that's perfect, Denver. I would absolutely enjoy a food truck called the Chubby Vegan for sure. Provisional data for November 18th. Is that this year? Because that's scary. Or are you talking about last November 18th? Is that what you're talking about? Oh, okay, I see. No, 2023. Okay, sorry. Jeez. Took me a long time to see that. Iran hit 120, almost 124 Fahrenheit, 2025. Okay, November 17th, 2023, global temperature exceeded 2C above pre-industrial average. Get the all okay. Wow. Well, thanks for the info. I did not see that. I'm pretty sure I would have covered that had I seen that somewhere. That's interesting. All right, let's read this and try and do it quickly. Global temperature rise to reach near 2C in the next 5 years. World Meteorological Organization. In the next 5 years. I mean, that is a pretty dire prediction because 2C is. I know that people say 3C is lights out, but you could pretty much say 2C is lights out. Especially how quickly we have reached 2C. We've gone from 1 to 2. That was a very, very fast changeover. Extremely fast. Global temperatures are expected to rise to close to 2C above pre-industrial levels in the next 5 years, according to data from the UN World Meteorological Organization reported by the Financial Times. The newspaper continues, scientists expect a range of knock-on effects from such a climb to near the 2C mark, including a fall in crop yields and more than a third of the world's population being exposed to extreme heat. This does not represent a breach what of the 2015 Paris Accord target to limit warming since pre-industrial times to well under or well below 2C and preferably to 1.5C. Wait, hold on. Are they rewriting? I think they're rewriting history right now because the target was not to limit to well below under 2C. It was well below 1.5. It was always well below 1.5, and now they're telling us it's well below 2. No, no. Sorry. Nice try. As the threshold is typically measured over the last 2 decades, but a temporary breach of the 2C level could occur over the near term. We're past 1.5. We ain't going back. Sorry, guys. Sorry, people. Temporary breach of the 2C level could occur over the near term as atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide behind global warming was at its highest level in 800,000 years, the WMO said. The Guardian reports that, according to the data, there is a 70% chance that 5-year average warming for 2025 to 2029 will be more than 1.5 C above pre-industrial levels. It's already done for the last 2 years, so I don't know how it could not be that for the next 5 years. So come on, catch up. It continues. The WMO also reported an 86% likelihood that 1.5 C would be passed in at least one. Oh my, can you please stop? Please stop. Please stop the madness. Up from 40% in the 2020 report. In 2024, the 1.5 C threshold was breached on an annual basis for the first time. An outcome that was considered implausible in any of the 5-year predictions before 2014. The Press Trust of India adds that overall the report concludes that the average global mean near surface temperature for each year between 2025 and 2029 is expected to be between 1.2 C and 1.9 C. No, higher than it was between 1850 and 1900. Okay. Well, they served up a nice batch of misinformation along with the kind of trying to give you some information. That was frustrating. I don't know what to tell you about that. That's 1.5 C is over. We've been above 1.5 C for 2 years. Sorry, not 1 year, 2 years. 2 years we have been above annually 1.5 C. Period. That's facts, Jack, and don't let anybody else tell you different. And so I don't know how we go below 1.5 C over the next 5 years, considering the temperature is going up and not down. It is ridiculous. Every year for the next 5 years is going to be above 1.5 C, period. End of story. Ridiculous. The question is whether we hit 2 C or not, and that is very, very likely. And it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. But, well, anyways, so much for truth and climate reporting. Because of this warming, we're getting things like this: a major glacial collapse in Switzerland. Sorry, and I meant to talk about this link that you sent me. Swami. But we'll go back to the link for a second. But because of that, we are seeing massive, incredible scenes like this. A glacier collapses in Switzerland. Why is it collapsing? Because it's too warm for the glacier to continue to exist as a glacier. It's kind of simple maths. And so that's what's happening. They have declared a special situation. And we'll just watch this for a moment. It's fairly... well, that's fairly frightening. And we'll look at the aftermath in just a moment, after a word from our sponsors. Enjoy coffee today. Coffee is delicious. I love coffee. I won't tell you what kind to buy or what kind to drink, but I prefer an espresso. So delicious when you make it in an espresso machine. or maker. I don't use a machine. I use a mocha pot. And there you go. That's a word from our sponsor, coffee. Okay. Anyways, that's massive. And this is the before and after of the area. So massive. All right. So let's go back to this. We're going to go back to this article real quick. And we are going to look at 2023 when global temperature exceeds 2C above pre-industrial average. How did I miss this? How did I not see this? I don't understand. Earth briefly passed a critical warming threshold this past weekend, according to data from Era 5. This is a year and a half ago. Over a year and a half ago. It's almost June, y'all. The European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecast, fifth generation reanalysis of the global climate from 1940 to the present. November 17th, 2023 was the first day in which the global temperature exceeded 2C above pre-industrial levels. These latest figures put Earth's rising temperatures into sharp focus ahead of COP28, which is set to start in Dubai on November 30th. Did I catch this? I don't know. It was so long ago. Maybe I don't remember. But I don't remember talking about this. So unless my memory is just that bad. And it could be just that bad. My memory ain't what it used to be. I can't even remember what it used to be. Okay. So on November 17th, the global surface air temperature reached 2.07 C above pre-industrial average. An average temperature taken between 1850 and 1900 prior to extensive use of fossil fuels. Also, the provisional data for November 18th indicated temperature anomaly of 2.06 C of the pre-industrial level or levels. Man. Getting hotted up there, y'all. Huh. Well, so, okay. Do I know what they use to decaffeinate coffee beans? I don't know. I don't care. I don't drink decaffeinated coffee. But I'm curious. I'm curious. But I don't know. Methylene chloride. Well, thank God I don't drink decaffeinated coffee. And never would. I don't drink non-alcoholic beer. I don't drink decaffeinated coffee. If it's going, if that's where the day is going, I'll just switch to tea. Ginger tea. Or some good old yerba mate, but that has plenty of caffeine in it too. A paint stripper, you say? Yeah. Well, I leave the decaffeinated coffee for the, I don't know, for the people that are into that kind of stuff. Okay, let's move on. Day is going by very quickly. We're going to get into... Yeah, no, I don't use that either. I don't use any actually milk products in my coffees. I just use some honey, a little bit of honey, and that's about it. I don't even use sugar, or any kind of refined sugar. I keep it. Honey is pretty delicious. It ain't vegan, but you know, that's okay. I use no milk products or dairy products or fake dairy products or any of that kind of stuff either. Deep fry my beans? What you talking about? Are you serious? I'm going to refry my beans. I don't know about deep fry my beans. All right, we're going to talk about Israel because every day we be talking about Israel. Because it's the most heinous place in the world at the moment. Yeah. Israel, the most disgusting entity on the planet at the moment, and terrible place to be. This is just, when you don't think it gets any lower, Israel deliberately murdered an 11-year-old Gaza influencer, Yakin Hamad, who provided advice and encouragement on surviving the genocide. Israel did this because it is a cancerous tumor on the face of humanity. I agree. Run by that fuckface, Netanyahu. I'm going to keep calling him a fuckface, too, because that's what he is. Yeah. Sorry. Don't let me get really upset right now, because I am about to go off. I don't know. I just seem to get really upset when people, right, when people murder women and children indiscriminately, and then try and call it a war. And I also love when the scam callers call me when I'm doing my show. Deep fried coffee, sir. What you talking about? I'm gonna need that link. Yeah, I really, I try to hold it together and keep my anger a little in check, but man, it's really hard if you are not filled with absolute freaking rage at this. Rage. If you are not filled with rage, there is something wrong with you. That's about all I got to say. Yeah. They did this. Someone in the Israeli leadership thought it was a good idea to bomb this child, and a whole chain of command agreed and executed the strike. Also, they murdered a Gazan farmer, Youssef Abu Rabi, in an airstrike as part of its program of imposing famine on Gaza. It targeted everyone who attempted to protect aid convoys, distribute aid, or feed the population outside its genocidal control. 24-year-old Youssef Abu Rabi was reviving farming to combat food shortages and starvation caused by the prolonged Israel war on Gaza. Yeah. All right, we're going to keep it moving. Leaders of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which is tasked or was the entity that's delivering aid at the moment. They've been exposed as frontmen for Israel, which initiated their project to legitimize genocide and occupation. None want to take credit for charity washing the crime of the century, so they're walking away. It's a historic mask-off moment for the international aid complex that has provided humanitarian cover for imperial interventions from Iraq to Afghanistan to Haiti to Syria. Late Sunday, Jake Wood, the head of Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, a private aid organization aimed at distributing food in the Gaza Strip, abruptly resigned, saying that the group's plans could not be consistent with what he called the humanitarian principles of humanity, neutrality, impartiality, and independence. The chief operating officer, David Burke, also resigned, according to people familiar with the situation who, like others discussing the aid situation, spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak to the press. Burke could not be reached for comment. The GHF is a nonprofit registered in Switzerland and Delaware, of course, and backed by the United States and Israel, which aims to use armed private contractors to provide security at Israeli designated corridors and distribution hubs from which aid groups would distribute food packages to vetted Gazans. Vetted Gazans. This is what I was trying to find yesterday. This is what it looked like. These pictures coming out of Gaza with the aid distribution center. And correctly, what happened to Never Again? Humanity failed again. Indeed. Netanyahu gave an extremely genocidal speech yesterday. Again, incorrectly calling it a war. It is not a war. Listen to this. This is a war of good against evil. It's being fought against human, animal, monsters, and we will defeat them. This is the words of Netanyahu. We will wipe them out. They will not remain. Be careful what you wish for, buddy. And this is a good time to remind people that under 18 U.S. Code 109 or 1091D, conspiracy to commit genocide is a federal war crime punishable by death. There is no statute of limitations. And by the way, Israel marks 800 plane loads of U.S. guns, bombs, and ammo as war nears day 600. Yes, he is. Yes, sushi. Yes. He is a maniac, and he is satanic and Hitlerian, indeed. So more than one, in excess of one plane full of bombs and ammo a day. One plane load every 18 hours for 600 days straight to defeat an enemy that has presumably not been resupplied once. And Sarah, I saw another post of a doctor saying that he's never once treated a combatant in the region. It's only kids with their arms blown off and women and children that have been ripped apart. Not one combatant, which goes to show you it's not a war. That all of that is just gaslighting. Anyways, we'll keep going. Every country that is not immediately cutting off all trade, transport, diplomatic, and military ties with Israel is, without exception, a participant in this Holocaust. Thousands of starved Gazans stormed the dystopian Israeli-American aid complex in West Rafah after being forced to stand in endless queues under the scorching sun inside a fenced camp, subjected to biometric surveillance. The U.S. Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation responded by opening fire on civilians, and I played this yesterday, by the way. While Israel continues to block UNRWA and WFP from providing real aid. And here's an interesting, going back in history, that the last two presidents to actually hold Israel accountable in any way, shape, or form was Reagan and H.W. Bush. Glenn Greenwald posting, the last two U.S. presidents who applied any meaningful limits on Israel's war mania were Reagan and Bush, 41. It ended when Bill Clinton led the effort to smear H.W. officials as anti-Semites for doing it. Here is Reagan's memo from the time. Met with the news that Israelis delivered the most devastating bomb and artillery attack on West Beirut lasting 14 hours. Habib cabled desperate, has basic agreement from all parties but can't arrange details of PLO withdrawal because of the barrage. King Fahd called begging me to do something. I told him I was calling Prime Minister Begin immediately. And I did. I was angry. I told him it had to stop or our entire future relationship was endangered. Interesting. I used the word Holocaust deliberately and said the symbol of his war was becoming a picture of a 7-month-old baby with its arms blown off. Wow. That's fairly amazing that he wrote this. He told me he had ordered the bombing stopped. I asked about the artillery fire. He claimed the PLO had started that, and Israeli forces had taken casualties. End of call. 20 minutes later, he called to tell me he'd ordered an end to the barrage and pled for our continued friendship. Spent rest of the day meeting with congressmen on tax bill. I mean, it's interesting because that just sounded like a little bit of pressure, like some, some displeasure, disappointment, some anger coming from the U.S. president, causing the Israeli prime minister to stop doing what he was doing. That's all it takes. Apparently, I guess it takes a lot more now. But an amazing little bit of history there. And after all that, in better news, there are reports of a ceasefire being agreed to. I'll believe it when I see it. Don't hold your breath regarding anything in this theater. Hamas has issued a press release confirming it reached an agreement on a general ceasefire framework with U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff. The deal includes a permanent ceasefire, full withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza, immediate aid flow, appointment of a professional committee to manage Gaza post-deal. So this is from today, I believe. The agreement also includes the release of 10 Israeli captives and several bodies in exchange for an agreed number of Palestinian prisoners under mediator guarantees. Hamas says it now awaits a final response to the framework. Hamas. So we will see if that even comes to be. Guys, if you like the show coming to you for free, 99 Monday through Friday, and you want to see the show continue to exist in its current form as a place where people can get their news and congregate and sit around the warm fire of the computer glow and talk about things as they see them. If you like the show and you want to support the show, I would urge you to support the show. There are lots of links in the description box of whatever platform you're watching on. Sorry, lost my brain there for a second. There's also a link tree on X on my profile page with all those links as well. Many of you support the show, have supported the show, and do so on a regular basis. You know who you are, and I appreciate you. Let's look at this. China just sold $50 billion in U.S. debt. And this is from 2 days ago. And we'll look at this for a second. And the Fed bought this debt back from China. Fed quietly buys $43.6 billion in U.S. Treasuries in alleged stealth QE operation after China abruptly dumps billions in bonds. The reserve, I'm not going to read the same thing over and over again. New documents show the Fed purchased $8.8 billion in 30-year bonds on May 8th. A move that followed a $34.8 billion purchase earlier the same week. The move has triggered allegations that stealth QE has arrived, with a Market Watch op-ed by Charlie Garcia calling the move monetary policy on tiptoes. The Fed has long stated such purchases are routine reinvestments of maturing securities to adjust the money supply and influence interest rates to meet its targets. The Fed's buying spree follows a major treasury sell-off from China. New numbers from the Treasury Department show China sold $18.9 billion in U.S. bonds in March, while most other countries increased their holdings. China now holds $765 billion in U.S. Treasuries and is in third place behind the U.K. and Japan, which hold $779 billion and $1.13 trillion respectively. But it makes sense because of the tariff nonsense. What's this, Deline? Yep. February 7th, 2025, U.S. approved $7.4 billion sale of more weapons to Israel. Yeah, the weapons flow has continued, of course. And same with Ukraine in more circuitous ways. All right, thanks for the tip. I don't know who tipped me on Rockfin, but I appreciate it. Thank you. And there is some news about Ukraine here. Russia threatens to send missiles into Germany. My God. Um, so that'll be fun, right? That'll be a good time for everyone. If Russia starts bombing Germany directly, yeah. I mean, it's just a Monday. You know what I'm saying? But let's look at this for a second. Russia is considering hitting targets in Berlin. This is from Russia Today. After MERS authorized Ukraine to strike Moscow with German long-range missiles, this is some one-upmanship. In Moscow offices, they are discussing that if the German military will strike Moscow with German weapons, and permission to strike with Tauruses can only mean this, since the bosses can neither service them nor enter a flight mission, then we have no choice but to strike Berlin. Okay. Malcolm Young says Russia will attack all at once if it comes to it. I don't disbelieve that. I'd say that's probably true and correct. AOD says, yay, I'm currently in Berlin. No, I'm sorry. Well, I don't know. I can't tell who. Oh, maybe I can here. I'll see this here. DB Cooper. Thanks for the tip, man. Appreciate you. On Rockfin there. Couldn't really see that before. I don't know why. And this is from Seven Seas. John Glad says never going to happen. Okay. I mean, I hope not. I hope not. Because I'm sure that could only mean very bad things. But let's look at this from Seven Seas. Talking about there is supposedly some new COVID going around, and I guess we'll talk about that a little bit too. But this is interesting because Trump announced a major auctioning, and we were talking about yesterday. We were talking about manipulations. Microwave, electronic, frequency manipulations of the human body, and or briefly weather. And this kind of coincides with that. Trump announces a major auctioning off of 600 megahertz for 5G and 6G networks, and magically there is a new COVID. I don't know. It's very tenuous a link, I think, but we'll talk about it. Anyways, yeah, so he's auctioning off the spectrum. He says we must maintain our status as the worldwide leader in Wi-Fi, 5G, and 6G, connecting every American to the world's best networks while also keeping everyone safe. President Trump wrote yesterday on his Truth social media platform, we can do both at the same time. Bottom line, I'm going to free up plenty of spectrum for auction, so Congress must put 600 megahertz in the one big, beautiful bill. If the bill passes Congress and is signed by President Trump, the spectrum auctions will require the FCC and National Telecommunications and Information Administration to identify 600 megahertz of spectrum for auction over 2 years. And this is a follow-up. Weird how wireless radiation, communication radiation from 5G signals have such a huge overlap of symptoms from a COVID virus, and there was a lot of talk about this early in COVID, right? About 5G interactions and a possible kind of like a triggering or a manifestation. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm not saying this is true and correct. This is just for informational and entertainment purposes. Okay. Not giving anybody medical advice whatsoever. I'm just interested in the theory. That's all. But we'll look at this very quickly. Bio-effects of wireless communication radiation exposure in relation to COVID-19 manifestations and their progression. So we have these lined up side by side. Blood changes from WCR, short-term rouleau echinocytes, long-term reduced blood clotting, reduced hemoglobin, hemodynamic disorders, and in COVID-19 manifestations, much of the same, including more vascular effects, reduced hemoglobin in severe disease, autoimmune, hemolytic anemia, hypoxemia, and hypoxia, endothelial injury, impaired microcirculation, etc., pulmonary embolism, stroke. In the WCR, oxidative stress, free radicals, lipid peroxide increase, superoxide dismutase activity decrease, oxidative stress in COVID-19, much the same. Organ damage and severe disease. And then on the left again, immune system disruption and activation, immune suppression in some studies. This is from the radiation, long-term suppression of T lymphocytes, inflammatory biomarkers, organ injury, and again, much the same in COVID-19. So you get the idea. You get the idea. And we'll look at this. New COVID strain from China that led to massive spike in hospitalizations has spread to the U.S. Oh no, everybody run for the hills and dig your mask out of the back of your top drawer in your dresser. Creative Experiment says 5G wasn't even available until after COVID. I don't know if it was after. I think they rolled it out around the same time. I want to say it was coincidental. So I don't know if it wasn't, because they were definitely putting up 5G towers around the same time. But again, I'm not saying that I'm not a wholehearted proponent of the idea. I'm just saying it's interesting. And there was a lot of talk about it during that time. That doesn't make it, true or correct or, factual. I'm just saying it was a part of the conversation. It was a thing that people were discussing, and, hive mind and all that kind of good stuff. But and people do have concerns. Well, going back to the thing that I read yesterday, when they're saying that you could have brain interface type things, that can be inserted, through into the bloodstream, into blood vessels, heightened connectivity, of these things could be enhanced by graphene particles, right? And what were people talking about, possibly finding in the vaccine? There was a lot of, I think people were trying to find a lot of overlap in the vaccines and the COVID-19. I don't know. It's all very nebulous to me. I'm just saying it's an interesting conversation. Just for clarity, Bella says currently 5G uses multi-band 2.4 gigahertz LTE, not 5 or 10 gigahertz. I think there was a definite there was a rollout of 5G. I remember in 2020, it seemed like that was when they were really pushing it out there, or starting to push it out there. Again, whether you think that was a thing or not, I don't know. Carrie Nanstead on Rockfin says we are in the 80s today in Tacoma, Washington. That is very warm. Too early for that temp. That is very warm for Tacoma, Washington, for sure. I would think that's more of like something that would happen in like August, right? AOD says I have had a 5G tower 10 meters from my window since January of this year. I'm keeping a journal. All right. Good to know. I'd like to know what you find or what you experience. If you could share that with us when you have something maybe to share. Derek Bros was reporting it on it at the time. Yes. And so was, Ryan Christian was reporting on it. There was a lot. There were a lot of people that were talking about a possible overlap. Some people were going a little harder than others, right? There's the tried and true, the true nutter conspiracy theorists that are just jump headlong into every conspiracy, like, oh, that's what's happening, and this is absolutely what's happening, with very little, to no source material or actual data backing up what they're saying, right? There's plenty of those people out there, but I think Derek Bros and Ryan Christian, try to give, substantial evidence of the things they're talking about. That's why I appreciate their work. Bella says 2.4 gigahertz is bad news, as the wavelength resonates, heats water molecules in your body. It is the same frequency used by microwave ovens. Ding, ding, ding. Definitely. Yeah, definitely something to consider, right? Creative Experiment says China had 5G first, then Trump banned Chinese 5G, probably starting the 5G hysteria. Okay. Okay. Gene Whitworth says, keep in mind that the Taurus, the missiles, will need lots of U.S. help with targeting, like Starlink, which they need badly. If you don't think we're not going to be involved in that, I think it's pretty silly to think that Germany is just going to be like, you know what, we're doing the missiles today, and the U.S. is just going to be like, all right, let us know how it goes. I don't think so. I think they're going to know. They're going to be extremely involved in that, or very, very aware of the situation, right? Anyways, there's a new COVID strain, supposedly. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think there is a flu going around. There is a flu going around. Something, I got it like last week, but it was pretty typical flu. So don't confuse the flu with COVID. Definitely, not giving medical advice here. If you want to test for COVID, go for it. I would If you don't test for COVID, you can't get COVID. There's that. There's that thought process too. There's an interesting picture. I don't know, every month or a couple months or a couple weeks, there's more COVID cases. They're totally ramping up. They just roll it out there again, wondering if people are going to jump on the bandwagon. Personally, I'm over it. And so every time I see somebody shout from the hilltops, watch out for all the COVID that's coming, I'm like, I'm like, whatevs, yo. You're trying it again? Have fun with that, because I don't think not a lot of people are in the mood to take this seriously anymore. I'm just saying. The focus group has spoken, and the focus group is like, nah, I'm good. So there's very few people that are still left that are like, really? COVID's back and it's overwhelming hospitals again? Wow, what'll I do? There's very few of those people left. But nice try. All right. Good crowd today. Thanks for hanging out, guys. See if I have anybody else to thank here today. Today. I don't think so. Let's see. Oh, speaking of this, one more. This is from Taylor Hudak interviewing Dr. Burkhart, who died I believe shortly after this interview. Anyways, he's talking about mRNA jabs cause significant changes to the brain, according to Dr. Burkhart, who examined autopsies of patients who died shortly after vaccination. One of the most alarming findings was vasculitis of the small blood vessels in the brain, causing unconsciousness, loss of speech, and even blindness for several hours in many patients. Let's listen to this little clip.
Now, these next two images and cases that we will discuss are from your own studies in which you observed vasculitis of the small blood vessels in the brain. This is now the second time that we mentioned vasculitis, so just a reminder for everybody listening, that is an inflammation of the blood vessels. If you could again, for us, just describe what is being observed in these two images here.
Yes, well, actually, this is one of the most alarming findings that we had from the beginning on, that if you really look closely at these, at the brain tissue sections, you find this vasculitis in almost all cases. In many cases, it's a very discrete, but you have to look for it. And these are two images where you can see, you really have to look closely to see that these small vessels in the brain, there's the endothelium is swollen, but then there are these small blue dots. These again are lymphocytes which aggregate around these small vessels.
And lymphocytes cause inflammation.
The fact that lymphocytes are found there means that there's some inflammation, probably triggered by some antigenic structure. In this case, maybe a spike protein or something from the vaccination. And as I said, this is a finding that in minimal degree is found in almost all of these people who died after vaccination. And actually, we have seen it also in one needle biopsy from the brain. We come to this later. And in many of these cases, which have more pronounced inflammation of the vessels of the brain, there have been transient defects like loss of speech for a few hours, unconsciousness for some hours, blindness for some hours. The brain is if there's no major inflammation and no hemorrhage, these people, the brain is able to compensate again. But of course, this is a very striking side effect.
So just in order for me to summarize what you had just said, this finding here was one of the most concerning. Yes. It is also one that is very commonly seen in people who have died post-vaccination.
Yes.
And it can, oftentimes individuals with this complication have had periods of blindness, inability to speak properly. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. Now, just to get this clear, I mean, they did not die from this. This is something we find. We find other cases where there's blood bleeding and hemorrhage in the brain, and they died of it. But this is just a side effect which may be compensated and healed to a certain degree.
So somebody who's listening right now, or anybody could have received the COVID-19 vaccine, they could have this very issue, experience some symptoms, and not even know that they are experiencing this?
Yes, exactly. And actually, in some cases, change in the character of these vaccinated is reported. Sometimes it's reversible, and apparently in some cases not. And this may be one of the reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a classic clip from that interview. And evidence still coming out, pouring out, might be a way to put it, about the danger of this. But there's still, I did see RFK Jr., they did take the RFK Jr. and Jay Bhattacharya, they took the COVID vaccine off of the schedule for healthy children. You know, what was some kind of percentage of a better outcome of having those guys around. I don't know. I guess they're still prescribing it for people who are high risk, so, which also is, counterintuitive, because it seems like there's more risk. Anyway, so you know what I'm saying. Yeah, creative experiments. I mean, there were people that were, but man, there's so much going on then. They were saying that COVID was making, gave people all kinds of problems, right? So, all right, guys. Well, that's it for today. Thanks so much for being here, and enjoy the rest of your day. I'll be back tomorrow at the regular time of 12 p.m. Pacific. Yeah, there's more evidence coming out that these shots are dangerous, but they're not really going hard on trying to protect people from them. They're just kind of going, here's a dial, and I'll move the dial like this much. Is that good? Does that make you feel better? Not so much. All right, guys. Peace out.
Mm-hmm.